Was a Roman emperor really murdered by his own eunuch? And what if the man who pulled the trigger wasn't just a eunuch, but a master manipulator, pulling strings from the shadows of the imperial palace? Let's dive into a story drenched in blood, ambition, and the utterly chaotic scramble for power that defined the twilight years of the Roman Empire. Forget dusty histories and dry dates. This is the tale of Valentinian III, a ruler who tripped over his own feet into a fatal trap, and the viperous court that ensured his demise. It all started with Aetius, a name whispered with reverence and, frankly, a good deal of fear. He was the rock upon which the western half of the empire rested, a brilliant general who'd stared down Hunnic hordes and crushed rebellious tribes. Think of him as the ultimate Roman bodyguard, only instead of protecting an emperor, he was the emperor's shield. But Aetius wasn't a fan of consensus. He wasn't interested in politely debating every decision. He just did things and everyone else followed. And Valentinian III, the emperor who inherited this prickly protector, wasn't exactly thrilled with being told what to do. Our story begins in 454, a year that smelled distinctly of impending doom. Valentinian, a man who'd waited until his 30s to truly seize the throne, was feeling uncomfortable. He'd inherited a kingdom riddled with enemies, both internal and external, and Aetius, bless his brutally efficient heart, wasn't making it easy. Aetius, a man who valued results above all else, had a habit of adding grievances to his list like items on a shopping list, and Valentinian was the latest, most inconvenient one. It wasn't just about disagreements, it was about a fundamental clash of personalities. Valentinian, a man who craved control, found Aetius' decisive style suffocating. He wanted to be the one calling the shots, not merely reacting to them. Enter Petronius Maximus, a Roman senator of impeccable lineage, a man who'd spent years carefully cultivating a reputation as a loyalist. He'd served under Aetius, a comfortable position that allowed him to observe the emperor's methods and, more importantly, to plot against him. Think of him as the slow-burning fuse of a very dangerous bomb. He wasn't a flashy revolutionary, he was a patient, calculating strategist, and he'd been quietly building a case against Aetius for years. Then there was Heraclius, the eunuch head of the emperor's household. A eunuch, seriously, this wasn't some hapless, giggling servant. Heraclius was a man of immense power, a gatekeeper to the emperor's ear, and a master of manipulation. He'd been quietly gathering intelligence, whispering discontent into Valentinian's ear, and generally sowing seeds of distrust. He was the perfect accomplice, discreet, ruthless, and utterly devoted to his own ambitions. The stage was set for a bloody drama. The plotters, armed with two potent weapons, Valentinian's resentment and Heraclius' access, decided to act. The timing was impeccable. The Hunnic threat, which had been a constant source of anxiety, had finally receded, leaving the imperial court feeling a little less vulnerable, a little more relaxed enough to be blindsided. The scene unfolds in the heart of the palace, during a seemingly mundane meeting about finances. Aetius, a man known for his meticulous attention to detail, was painstakingly calculating tax revenues when Valentinian, in a sudden, explosive burst of rage, leaped from his throne. "I will not be abused," he bellowed, drawing his sword and with Heraclius at his side launching a savage attack. It was a chaotic, brutal scene. Aetius, stunned and bewildered, tried to reason with the emperor, but Valentinian was beyond reason. The palace erupted in violence as the two conspirators descended upon Aetius, a whirlwind of steel and fury. The air filled with the clang of swords and the cries of the wounded, and then silence. Aetius lay dead, a victim of his own brilliance and the simmering resentment of his emperor, but the carnage didn't stop there. Like a chain reaction, the conspirators turned on each other, each vying for the throne. Petronius Maximus, eager to prove his loyalty, sought the title of consul, but Heraclius, fueled by his own ambition, thwarted his efforts, convincing Valentinian that he was merely a stepping stone to power. It was a classic Roman power struggle, a messy, brutal competition for control. The next few months were a descent into madness. Valentinian, emboldened by his victory, continued his erratic rule, alienating allies and fueling further discontent. Then, disaster struck again. Optilla and Throstilla, two guards officers close to Aetius, decided to take matters into their own hands. They ambushed Valentinian during a solitary archery practice, delivering swift and fatal blows. The emperor, already weakened by internal strife, succumbed to his wounds, dying less than 6 months after Aetius' assassination. The aftermath was pure anarchy. A hastily assembled coalition of disgruntled nobles and opportunistic generals descended upon the throne, each vying for control. It was a scene of utter chaos, a testament to the fragility of imperial power. The empire, already weakened by internal divisions and external threats, was plunged into a period of instability. Enter Aetius, a Gallic aristocrat with a surprisingly long and complicated history. He'd served under Aetius in the 430s, navigating the treacherous landscape of Roman politics with a combination of skill and diplomacy. He was a master negotiator, a shrewd strategist, and a man who knew how to play the game. Aetius, recognizing the opportunity presented by Valentinian's death, immediately turned to the Visigoths, a powerful tribe who had been settled in southwestern Gaul since 418. He sent an ambassador requesting their support, a move that would have sent shivers down the spines of Roman administrators. The Visigoths, eager to expand their influence, readily agreed. The poetry and letters of Sidonius, Aetius' son-in-law, offer a fascinating glimpse into this turbulent period. Sidonius, a stylist of exceptional talent, was a master of elaborate prose, a man who delighted in twisting words and crafting intricate metaphors. His writings are filled with flowery language, obscure allusions, and a healthy dose of self-promotion. It's like reading a Victorian novel written by a Roman emperor, unnecessarily complex, overly dramatic, and utterly captivating. Sidonius' account reveals that Aetius' embassy to the Visigoths was a calculated gamble, a desperate attempt to secure the military support needed to seize the throne. The Visigoths, sensing an opportunity to expand their influence, responded with enthusiasm. Gizeric, the Vandal king, saw the chaos in Rome as a chance to assert his own authority and launched a naval expedition to sack the city. The sacking of Rome was a brutal and devastating affair. The Vandals, led by Gizeric, looted and ransacked the city, taking treasures and prisoners back to Carthage. The widow of Valentinian III, along with her 2 daughters and her son, were among those captured. It was a humiliation for the Roman Empire, a stark reminder of its vulnerability. As the flames of the city burned, Aetius consolidated his power, declaring himself emperor and securing the support of Gallic aristocrats. He moved his court to Ares, from where he launched a triumphant march on Rome, effectively ending the reign of Petronius Maximus. But the story doesn't end there. Just as Aetius was settling into his new role, he was betrayed and murdered, plunging the empire into yet another period of chaos. The cycle of violence and betrayal continued, a testament to the brutal realities of Roman imperial politics. What's truly remarkable about this story is not just the violence and the intrigue, but the sheer speed with which it unfolded. Valentinian's reign lasted less than 2 years, a fleeting moment in the long and turbulent history of the Roman Empire. It's a reminder that even the most powerful empires are vulnerable to internal divisions and the ambitions of a few ruthless individuals. The death of Aetius wasn't just the end of a brilliant military career, it was the end of an era. His alliance with the Huns had been the cornerstone of the Western Empire's defense, a fragile but effective deterrent against barbarian invasions. With Aetius gone, the empire was left exposed, vulnerable to the ambitions of neighboring tribes. And yet, amidst the chaos and the bloodshed, there's a strange beauty to be found in this story. It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of power. It's a reminder that even in the midst of darkness, there is always the possibility of hope. So, was a Roman emperor really murdered by his own eunuch? And what if the man who pulled the trigger wasn't just a eunuch, but a master manipulator, pulling strings from the shadows of the imperial palace? The answer, as with so much of Roman history, is complicated. It's a story of shifting alliances, hidden motives, and a relentless struggle for power, a story that continues to fascinate and intrigue us to this day. But one final question lingers. If the Roman Empire could crumble so easily, so spectacularly, what does that say about the nature of power itself?